welcome once again to A View from the Upper Room. My name is Reverend Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott.
And I am Pastor Vicki Lund.
I'm Anne Marie Lockmeyer.
And I'm Marla Reed.
So glad that you are with us once again. If this is your first time being with us, welcome. Those of you who watch us all the time, welcome back. And especially those of you who are on Facebook Live.
That's right.
Now, those Facebook Live folks, you know what your responsibility is. You are going to write in your questions and comments so that during the show we might be able to talk about what you're talking about and really bring you into the conversation. Those of you who are on the network television, you might be watching us on HSBN, you might be watching us on KITV, you might be watching us through Roku. There's so many ways. Welcome from all over the world. We also would like to make sure that we tell you that we want you to contact us. So there are all kinds of different ways to contact us. Those addresses and phone numbers and all will be going over the bottom of the screen. Please be sure that when you write us or call us, you let us know where you are.
There you go.
In the world. That's going to be fun. To find out where you are, we love receiving letters. If you call, there's a prayer line. There's just all kinds of ways for you to interact. So thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Our guest today is Anne Marie Lockmeyer. I said it right. Anne Marie Lockmeyer. We actually worked together at another location and didn't get to know each other very well. So here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. This lady has an amazing ministry that we want to talk about today. And so the name of our episode is Using Pain for Purpose. Or maybe using pain on purpose.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
I like that. Write that down.
I like
that.
That's your next book title.
There you go.
Anyhow, now why are we talking with you about that particular subject?
Because I've lived it.
Okay.
Because I've lived it.
Because you're the only one on this
That's
house.
it. Yeah.
But no, anyhow.
No. That was kind of bogus, wasn't it?
No, I'm
Yeah.
teasing you.
No,
No, but you,
but
yeah.
It's my story, and I'm sure so many people do. But God has used my pain for a purpose, and something that I never would have thought, that my greatest pain could be my greatest ministry.
Wow.
And my greatest, I think probably maybe the best thing that I'll do with my life. But it had to go and come from a place of incredible pain.
Yeah. And I'm glad that God has this way of allowing us to live through some things. So we're going to be able to talk with you. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about having kind of some counseling sessions with you. So, so are you a counselor?
I'm not a counselor. I am
Okay.
a grief recovery specialist. And even though that might be counseling-like, I don't just sit there and talk to you. And counseling is good, so I'm not knocking counseling. But I specifically help people recover and heal over grief and loss. And it's an educational action step 6 session program. It's very specific and it's on purpose, and it processes all the unresolved grief, because we have a bunch of people walking around, the walking wounded, that are carrying such grief, such loss, that they don't even realize it, and they just don't know what to do. You know, I went to counseling for 3.5 years, and I didn't get any better until I actually went and experienced this process. And it was transformational to me. So now that's one of the things that I do now. I just love seeing people get to the other side.
How would you describe those weeks, those 6 weeks that you meet with somebody, just briefly in a nutshell, like some of the things that you work with them?
Wow. It's very intense, but very effective. Very emotional, but very impactful. And the first thing we do is we teach them what grief and loss is.
Yeah.
And most people don't understand, first of all, that grief is the normal and natural reaction, okay, to a loss. And everybody's grief is different, and
Yes.
we grieve differently.
Yes.
And so we judge our own grief, and we judge other people's.
Wow.
So feeling comfortable where they're at and validating where they're at, but also educating people that loss is just not death, right?
Huh.
There are over 60
Wow.
different types of life-altering losses. Any substantial negative change in your life is a loss.
Wow.
So a divorce is a loss, a
Yes.
broken
Definitely.
relationship, a tough childhood,
Yes.
estranged relationships, a medical loss. If you've had a serious medical condition or illness, a job loss all of a sudden, you get laid off. These are all huge things that we don't realize are losses, and we think we're just supposed to buck up and move on. And after a while, these things can build up. They can impact the way we see ourselves. They can filter the way we see the world and relationships. And they may come to see me after a death, but we find out that there's lots of losses. And some losses that have even hurt them more than the death. And so, so we look at all the losses, and then we give them the tools to process it, all the unresolved communications, what you wish was different, better, and more, your hopes, dreams, and expectations. All those things that were unsaid and undone, and we deal with the heart, not logic. I deal with the heart. I fix broken hearts. Because in here you can know something, but that's not the same as here. So I work here.
And it's profound that you're saying that, because there's a situation I'm dealing with right now, and I felt like I was trying to fix it with my head, but it's the heart that needs amending, and so it's so true. And so, I mean, how do you get that from your head to the heart? I don't know. That probably takes 6.
That's what I take 6 weeks. I'll take you there. I take 6.
I'm sold.
Calm down. No,
But I understand that, and so, but it is a process. It's not something you can probably snap your fingers.
No, it isn't. It's a process, and we go deep. But one of the keys too is, first of all, recognizing that you're trying to intellectualize it.
Yes.
And often a lot of the things, well, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do that, or they did the best they could, or they didn't mean it, or or they're a terrible person, but yet you still hurt so much and you want them. That's intellectualizing. But we're going to deal with, what are the feelings? What are your feelings?
Wow.
And I love to go feelings. My goodness, my husband's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" No, I'm just kidding.
But there's a lot.
I'm thankful. Thank you. The Lord's provided someone that wants to hear the feelings.
But I do have people who say, I don't understand what feelings are. Like I have to, I have to give them a sheet. Okay, we have to come up with some
Here we
words.
go.
And every client's different too, right? Isn't it
Oh,
fascinating?
absolutely.
It's probably, I don't even know how you do that. I want to learn how you do this, because it's interesting, just dealing with.
Just tap into your heart.
Yeah. Okay.
The
And that's
neat
what
thing-
Jesus does too. So he taps into our hearts. Huh?
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely. That's where he lives.
Right.
So,
Right.
very cool. As you were talking, I started thinking, because when I think of grief,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I think of, I don't think I'm by myself, the first thing I think of is somebody died.
Right.
Grief. And we're ready to put our arms around people who have had a death, loss, so who are dealing with grief. But I don't think we're always ready to put our arms around, or we don't even think about those other losses. The first thing I thought of was when my last kid went to college.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
It is.
That really was a loss.
It was.
Because when I had the 2 boys, but when the first one went, I still had the second one at home. So, no big deal.
Right.
Okay, he's away, he's college, But when the second one left, and that one went across the country. And so that was huge.
It's a big change for you.
Right, it was a
In your
huge
life.
thing. So
And they're multi-layered. I know right now in my life, I've got a daughter that graduated, another one's leaving. I've got a husband that's changed job, not once, but twice. Actually volunteered, so had 3 job changes. I've got church situations where I kind of like had to leave suddenly. Then, I mean, all these layer. And you're sitting here
and
going,
they're happening close to the same time.
Right. So you're sitting here going, I'm going crazy. I know I'm going crazy, but those are the things that I sit here going cognitively. No one's died. I'm not going through divorce. So I rationalize how serious they are. I'm going to cry just talking about it. But it's like, it's the layers of it, And so I think that's where
a good
you just
point.
kind of want to go, okay, can I take a vacation right now? But, it's the vacation will be, you can, I think you kind of, you can take care of it in a way where you're just putting a Band-Aid on it, but you're not dealing with it, and so you have to kind of go there. But you do.
Well, we don't know how to go there, and so what most of us do is we pretend we're okay, we're strong, we keep ourselves busy, we move on because we're supposed to get over it and move on. If I hear those words anymore,
and as
move
a
on and
Christian,
get over it.
Aren't you leaning on Jesus?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
Where's your feet?
don't get.
Ouch! Those are the questions you
God never gives you more than you can handle.
Oh, there
That's
you
my
go.
favorite. But you ask yourself those questions because you've heard them so many times. You're like, oh yeah, I just need more. Oh, I should be praying more. I'm not in the Word enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to worship. I should be waking up after the morning worshiping. You have this it's murmuring,
And so we feel bad. We make ourselves feel bad using the Bible.
right.
So we're really messed up.
And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because there are people who are experiencing things.
Yes.
And I think every day, and so this topic is so important. It's like, what do you say to somebody when they're experiencing something? Certainly you're not alone. You know, that's so important. You're not by yourself in this, and I'm going to get through this with you, whatever it takes, or whatever. I'd love to hear, obviously, your thoughts on that, since you're here with us today.
You obviously went through this process yourself, so I'm curious what the Lord kind of has done in your life, and what were some of those moments where the Lord just helped you get those breakthroughs. And I'm sure you still have them. It's just part of the process. But sure.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for me, I lost my husband suddenly. 4 days before our 26th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
We've been together since we were 18, and I was out of the country, and I got the phone call that he had died suddenly.
Oh gosh.
Brain aneurysm.
Oh my.
And everything changed that day.
Absolutely.
Everything changed that day.
The whole world.
And I do remember, the only thing I remember that day was getting down on my knees and just saying, God, if I have to go through this, then please let me glorify you.
Wow.
Honor my husband and impact lives.
Wow.
And I will say this, I didn't have it together by any means. I was a wreck, but I was able to get that out. But for pretty much 3 years, I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live. And it was I never thought pain like that was possible. When I talk to people who've also lost a loved one, until you've been there, it goes to a depth that you just, it's not even a place that you even knew existed. And the good news is, I will say that now I realize that I experienced a pain to a depth I never thought I could experience. But I know that one day it'll be filled with joy that I never thought could go that deep too. And I knew that God could do that, and He has already started to do that. But it doesn't mean that it's not terrible along the way. And it was a terrible pit of pain. And on top of that, my grown son at 16 became mentally ill. So I was dealing now. I was a widow with one child who then was mentally ill.
How long ago did you say this happened?
My husband was 6 years ago, just 6 years ago, and my son had become sick prior to that. But so all of a sudden, my whole life had changed, and I thought, "Are you kidding me, God?" As a matter of fact, this was it. I took Job. Though you slay me, I will trust you. And I would say to God, "You are slaying me right now.
Wow.
You are slaying me, and I don't get it, and it's too much, and I want to die, and I'll never get through this." Sounds came out of me I never thought would ever come out of me. And I remember hitting my body up against the wall saying, I will never get through this. And I talk to people who are experiencing these things, and I say, have you ever felt like you're not going to take your own life? But if a bus hit you on the way home today, you would be just fine.
Wow.
It's like, I just don't care. And I just don't care. I don't want to live. But I'll go on, right? Because you have to. And I was still close to God. I met Him in an intimate way. He was incredible. He carried me, but I still didn't get a lot of healing. And then I went through this method. And I'd been to counseling for 3.5 years. I never got any better. I went through this method, and it changed my life. And, in the process, I forgot. I ended up writing a book on how to help grieving people.
Wow. Which the title is?
Yes.
When Their World Stops. The Essential Guide to Truly Helping Anyone in Grief, because I realized nobody knew what to do with me. And people were avoiding me, or they were saying things to me, and I would think, no, you really didn't just say that to me, did you? Because that's not helpful. And then I realized I used to say those same things. And I had to call people up and say, I'm so sorry, I had no idea how inappropriate it was for me to say that. And even as a Christian, some of the things we say, we don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
But I just said, they need help. People need help.
Yeah.
So I ended up writing, it's a
Education.
guidebook. It's just a quick read because nobody wants to read my book, right? It's not like,
Right,
gee,
right.
Well, it's kind of like,
yes.
isn't it kind of one of those things where, yeah, you wrote this book, but the people that need it are
Yeah.
going through some of the hardest things of their life, and so it's kind of like a tool, but you're right.
It is a tool.
It's not one of these things people are going to be like, oh, bestseller.
I know. It's like, this is at the top of my to-read list.
Well,
No.
and as you're talking, some people who haven't been through that kind of a depth of a loss, right? I haven't been through that kind of a depth of a loss, and so I'm thinking, can I read the book and get like out in front of it? Because I know things come.
Prepare. Be prepared.
Tricky question.
Well, I think sometimes you do.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think it's foolish. to
There,
do
I
that.
have a different book for that. My book
Okay.
is about how to help a friend of yours who lost someone.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So
Like,
if
I'm
you-
already thinking in my
so
mind.
if
Wow.
you know someone's lost someone, this book in less than an hour, and you can scan it, will tell you, okay, now it'll take you from awkward to confident, and that's right here all the time. Oh my gosh, I know how to engage in a conversation. I know what to do for them, because it's not that we don't care. It's that we see people who are hurting and we can't fix it.
Yes.
And that is a terrible place to be because we love you and we can't fix it. And your pain is just so much for us. So that's why we say the things we say.
Yeah.
Look on the bright side. Really, no.
That's right.
At least I got at least he went
right
right
side.
side.
I said it.
At least he went fast. At least you had a
Wow.
good marriage. At least you had a good marriage.
Oh, wow.
Well,
I went to
now-
your website, well, your YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
what do you call those?
Channels, yeah.
Your channel, but the different things. And one of the pieces that I watched, because it's very cool, she had like 2-minute things, 4-minute things, you can get on there and get it quick, was
That's great.
5 things
Mm-hmm.
to say or do
Right.
for a friend who's
So
grieving.
important.
And it was
Yeah,
just
good.
fast, it was 4 minutes and something.
Wow.
And she just breaks it right down, right, for you.
That's so good.
And I thought, oh, cool. And that makes you want to see some of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make it simple and practical
Yeah.
and give you some tools.
I know, even in my walk with the Lord, He makes it simple, and I think that's kind of what sometimes we think it needs to be the more complex, the more helpful, but no, I think sometimes those moments of grief where I've really gone there, it's like, I went through abuse as a child, and the thing that got me through was when I prayed, Jesus, like, I'm crying too. It's like, okay,
That's
I'm
right.
not alone,
That's
you're
good.
crying with me. These sorts of things, it's like, it's a basic thing,
That's right.
but, and I've gone back to that place where it's like, okay, Jesus is crying, and it's hard, but I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. But I think those things are just raw, but you have to know how to engage people in their pain. And I think I'm able to go to those places I've been, but a lot of times when it is like someone who's lost a husband, and death or even divorce. I haven't gone through divorce. It's hard to go there because you think, can I really be empathetic if I haven't walked in their shoes? And I don't know if you can. You tell me. Is it something you can? I think empathy does come through that experience, and so it's like, but having those at least understanding. This isn't a why. I was even thinking. It kind of reminded me of a friend of mine who was diagnosed with a cancer, and what do you say? And I go back going, that probably wasn't a very good thing to say. I think it was trying to be encouraging and hopeful that I'm like, regardless if it's fatal, God is, something like that I said, and I'm like, but that's like not really hopeful. It's like kind of like, but you do. Sometimes you open your mouth in ways that isn't helpful, and so maybe just watching that tongue of yours. What would Jesus do, right? I don't know, but it's tricky.
I think if you talk to the heart and you just validate, like,
This must be hard.
there are no words. I don't even know what to say. This is terrible. I am so, so sorry. But my heart breaks for your heartbreak.
Okay.
And I'm here. I care.
Yeah,
This is
that's
terrible.
good.
That's
You
it.
haven't tried to put
you
yourself where they are.
No, we don't
'Cause you
have to
can't.
get it. We can just say, this is terrible, and I care. The hardest part is showing up and shutting up. I always tell people,
Shut
shut
up.
up and shut up.
Yeah.
Because probably not much of what you're going to say is going to be very helpful,
Yeah.
except just
Because we
being
just
there.
want to. We want
want
so
to fix it. We
much.
want you to be
Yeah,
better.
to fix it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want you to be better. I want you to.
And you know what that does? That causes the griever to then become an award-winning actor and pretend they're okay
Wow.
when they're not okay.
When they're not okay.
That's true.
Because people want us to be okay. Like even what you were saying about how with the things that you're going through now, that you're thinking, well, I got to have it together, and this is really tough, right?
Right.
But you think, well, no, I'm supposed to have it together, right? People want me to have it together. I'm supposed to be okay. But you're not okay. And that's okay, that this is overwhelming right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
But it's true. I think
This is really overwhelming right now. And
owning
it sounds
that you're-
like,
it's like I gotta own that, but it's like the problem. I know I'm crying. She gets me crying within 2 minutes. The problem is, she's a good cheese.
I do have a touch. There's something about the
Call me up, I can make you cry.
So I
You know what? I think what's awesome is that you're just real, Marla.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll be
we
real.
are just real on this program, absolutely real, and I think it attracts God's presence. You know, when we're vulnerable in this way, you know, it attracts God's presence, His healing love, and that's what His heart is, to heal hearts. You know, just
Now,
like
let
you were
me-
saying.
Let me give you a hard question. 'Cause
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I like to do. Okay, so I've been walking with the Lord for 40, we're not going to get into how many years, a whole lot of years. And I have grown, right? I know the word. I become what I think is pretty strong in the Lord or what have you. And then something happens, some tragedy, whatever, happens in my life. Shouldn't I be able to handle this by now in my life? Like, what's up with that? I've put all this, I've poured word into my life, I've been living for God, I've been ministering or what have you. What is up with grief, with things that happen that we just break down? Or can I depend on that strength that I've had over the years?
That's a good question. And I don't think it means that we're not connected with God or that we're not strong. I think you see grief in the Bible. I think you saw Jesus grieve.
Yes.
And often grief is from a point of loss of someone you cared about or something that was important to you. So is that not a normal response to losing something that's important? For instance, Sharon, you talked about being an empty nester now all of a sudden, right? So because your youngest child just went off and you're sad and having a tough time with that, does that mean we're not a strong enough Christian? Or does it mean how much you love your child and you just miss that they went? And maybe you need to process the feelings and emotions that go through with that, right?
That's right.
And as we acknowledge it and say, I miss my baby. And we would teach you how to go through those things and say goodbye to that, right? So that you could be free.
Amen.
But it doesn't make us less of a Christian.
And
I think we question ourselves.
that's the
Because
thing,
even I was saying with my husband, it's like been 3 years. How come I'm not any better and I'm connected with God? But I did not know how to go through this process.
Wow.
And when I did, it was life changing, which is why I got certified and do all
And
that.
it's terrifying when
Yeah.
I find when it's been time and you don't feel better, that's when you almost panic because you're like, I'm never gonna get better. It's like I think it kind of triggers this like, okay, we're stuck here. This isn't good. How do you break through those walls? And so I know I'm just all emotional today, but I feel like that's probably, I don't know if that was something that you were feeling. It was just why it's been 3 years. And so when it's been time, you're like, this should be done by now.
I'm thinking, doesn't it get better? But I hadn't processed. And it was interesting what came out when I went through the process, what I was holding on to. There was so much guilt that came out and it'll shock you what'll come out that you're holding on to. And since it was transformational for me, that's why I love to do it with other people. But not everyone is going to have a problem, right? So I tell people, you may not have issues that need to be processed. You know if you do, because you're going to be stuck. Life is not going to be the way you want it. Relationships are not going to be the way you want them to be. So there are other people that they do bounce back maybe better. And can God just touch you like that? Absolutely, He can. But if you'll know, if I talk to someone, you know whether you're
Well,
stuck.
I mean, I just met this woman, and like, I know. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be.
But it's fine. No, I mean that. But
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
true.
saying though
Yeah.
is what I believe God has allowed, and I thank Him, and I know we thank God in all circumstances, and this, between this and my son's experience and all the training that I've gotten since then and all that in this, I feel like He's given me the ability now to reach out and heal broken, feel people's pain, meet them in their pain, see it, that I couldn't have seen it had I not gone through it. And that's what people tell me all the time. You get it because you've been there. And that's where, you know, we talk about pain on purpose, and that's what I believe God uses, whether you were abused, whatever it has been, you can relate to a group of people that other people couldn't. And I love it that God can take our woundedness and our brokenness and use it to reach people. And now I feel like it's a gift. It's kind of a blessing and a curse. But you don't have to stay there. We can help people move. We can help people.
And, I have a girlfriend who lost both of her sons, her only children, and they were both killed in the same car accident.
Oh my gosh.
It was near Christmas. I mean, you know, you add up the whole thing.
Oh, that's so much.
And in speaking with her, she said something so profound that just, you know, knocked me off my feet. And talking, she did the same thing you did. She went straight to the Lord. I don't even know what this is, but the bottom line was God actually asking her, would you give them to me if I asked you? If I asked you. And then how she has been now, same thing, and able to have that empathy for people specifically who have lost children, but older children. It's not just you know, babies, or because these boys were in their 20s, and so just and no, she doesn't feel
That's exactly
nothing like that. But it is a trust. You know,
when does that transition happen, or how did it for you that you knew your pain became your ministry? What was that? Because there are people watching, I feel, that are in pain, and they're like, when is that transition going to happen in my heart, that I can now help other people to overcome?
That's for me, it was pretty early on, probably within a year. Like I know He told me to write the book. It's not like God speaks to me all the time. But that was very, you know, write the book. But I was still in my pain at the time. But I was able to do that. So I was able to reach out and help people a little bit through that, but I was still in the midst of my pain. It's now 6 years later that, you know, I've been able to really develop myself into someone who understands this and get the credentials and get the ability the tools, right? So that I can help people where they're at. And if I can't help them, at least I can figure out who can, right? That's what I love. Like, what kind of help do you need? And I always, you know, I try to tell people, pain is real.
yes,
but so is hope.
I read that.
And
I
if you
read
can
that. I love that.
This is not forever, but it may be for right now, and it's hard to look past that. But if we can give yourself grace to experience this and understand that we can get you through it, that we can get you to the other side and free you from some of this. If it's recent pain, it's going to take a while because it's fresh and raw. But if it's, you know, if it isn't, we can get through it quickly. You know, I work with people, it's been like 40 years, 50 years. Oh my, and it's been, that's something they're, you know, abuse, you know, that comes up. And to see them be freed, because it changes your filter about how you see yourself. And the message is like, oh, I don't think this way anymore. And I know it's God, you know, I know it's God because I'm always praying before I work with someone, and He wants us to be free to be the people that we are. But we're listening to all this stuff because of the things we've experienced. I have people who something happened to them when they got bullied in high school. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but it was a turning point for them. And so when we can work, even, you know, things like that, relationship breakups, it's really interesting.
I think we're on to something for this particular audience too, even in going back a moment to identify what types of things do we grieve? Like other than, like we said, other than deaths,
Yes.
divorce,
and I'm going to say pets, because pets can be a
Sure.
really profound one for a lot of people. I know other people might think it's just a pet. Well, you're probably not a pet lover, because if you're a real pet lover,
It's hard.
they're
I
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, but it can be. We talked about medical issues, mental health issues. You know, someone who like has a parent that has dementia or
That's what I'm
Alzheimer's.
going through right
Okay,
now too.
so that's a
She's
loss,
there.
and then when that parent dies, that's another loss. But the other thing is a marriage that isn't that great. I actually work with married couples who they're not divorcing, but their marriage did not turn out the way they wanted to, and they're really resentful. So when we can process, if we can get when we can
it's
safely
great. That's not
process
what you want it to be.
exactly when we get that free you of that, they actually see each other differently.
Wow.
But the other thing too, a lot of childhood stuff, and your parents maybe weren't the way you wanted them to be, or maybe they were great, but you got a message growing up, you had to be better, or perfect, or whatever it was, or they were absent emotionally, and some people think, well, that's nothing. Well, no, it is, because what's the message? And it's not to criticize anybody, it's just the impact. Again, it's not truth, okay? So your parents, by the way, could love you and adore you, but if you feel like you didn't measure up and you aren't loved, I'm going to deal with that.
Yes.
Does that make
Yes,
sense?
that makes
It's
sense.
not about
Yes.
what's true.
And I think some of us are afraid to go there. I mean, I know that's going to sound weird, but it's like, as you're saying these things, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I even want to. It's like, you're kind of like, I was even talking to someone, I do like online, I try to counsel to what I can in Christian forums where people are asking questions. A lot of times they're on there desperate for answers. And coming from an abuse history where I feel like the Lord's done healing, and I do see God's hand in using that, I can speak to that. I can speak life into that. Look, I'm okay. I guess I'm okay. But the problem is, you have things, there are layers of things that you're like, ooh, I don't, I've come to terms with the fact that that's just the way it's going to be. I need just to not even think about it. Let's move on. And so there's this thinking that you just got to move on. You just got to do, and do you get what
I
I'm
hate
saying?
that word. I hate move on or get over it.
Good.
I'm like, oh, that's going to be my next book. What the heck does that
But
mean?
then talk about
But we have
because that's what you tell yourself, right?
yeah, we do. We have a comment. I don't know if it's a question because we're not at the end of it yet. But when a tragedy happens, like losing a child, how can we not be mad at God in our grieving? That's one of our
that is a beautiful
Facebook
question.
Live questions.
And so, what if I don't know if the person's looking or whatever, God's okay with your anger.
Yes.
And that would be a normal and natural reaction to losing your precious child.
Yes.
That would be absolutely normal. And he can take it. He
can
take it.
He can handle it.
He's there with you.
His shoulders are big enough.
He grieves with you. And one of the relationships that I worked with was my relationship with God, by the way.
Yeah.
That was one of the relationships that I processed. So please, don't beat yourself up if you're having those feelings. He knows you're having them anyway.
Yeah.
And they're real. They're real and appropriate.
My most profound moments, encounters with the Lord were when I'm like, I'm angry, and I let him know. I'm like, okay, this is how I feel right now. And usually he meets me there because you're being vulnerable and you're letting him know. I mean, he knows anyway, right? But I think we're afraid of being that real with the Lord because we're supposed to come to him and we're supposed to, we have all these expectations even of how we're supposed to approach
And
our
he
Father.
just wants us to be real.
Right.
He just wants us to be totally real.
Exactly.
He knows anyway. I used to say, well, God, I'm not going to tell God I'm angry. Well, no, he knows.
And so does everyone else around you.
Right. But I'd like to just, again, if I could follow up with that, is that I am so sorry if you lost your child. Again, I can't even imagine. I know what my pain was like. I can't even imagine what that pain is like. Right. And you can be angry at God, and you can also know that you have a Father, a God who knows exactly what it's like to lose their child too.
That's right. That's good.
So you can be angry with him and let him hold you at the same time. And the roller coaster of emotions that you are going to experience is completely appropriate and normal. So just let yourself experience it, please.
We also know who the author of death is. And so many times I know being angry with God, it might not this situation, I'm just talking about myself. I found in being angry with God, once I am talking with God, He's letting me know that in my situation, I wasn't angry at the right person. You know, I need to be, if I'm going to be angry, I'm going to be angry at the one who has actually caused what's happening in all that terrible stuff. You know, never should have existed in the first place. And we're living on a planet that is full of issues.
That's right. That's right.
And God, though, is going to allow us. He's allowed me, the things that I am dealing with, has allowed me to live through the things that I'm dealing with so that I can have that empathy towards someone else. I never would have known
Yes.
this particular thing. Never would have known it. Wouldn't have signed up for it. But I never would have known it had God not allowed me to live through that.
I think
Oh
it's
my
so. I
goodness.
think that's when life just really begins. Is like the things that we have experienced and how God has helped us to overcome. When we get to the point where we can really reach out and help another human being, that's when this life just begins. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't go through that loss for nothing.
Right.
That I want to be able to help this other person because truly God has helped you to overcome. You're sitting here because of that reason.
No, it's true.
And how beautiful it is for you to be, I mean, at the end of your day, every day, to know, God, I'm making a difference. He's helping you. His grace is on you to make a difference. And, you know, I think that's really exciting, you know, to know that our pain wasn't for just no reason. I mean, I was a rebellious teenager, and I went through so many different cycles, too, as a young girl and as an adult, loss of a divorce, and my husband walked out. And so to know how God just meets us. I mean, I remember going through the divorce myself and having this terrible loss because I went through divorce as a child and then I went through it again as an adult, and I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, I've got 2 daughters to raise by myself. But I just distinctly remember, you know, just praying to God and all the confusion that was with it, because there was a lot of pain associated, but literally saying, you know, Father, forgive them for what they know not what they do. They don't even understand the pain that people are around or how they were handling the divorce. And it was like so amazing because Jesus is our example. He really is our example. So that helped me so much. And when I try to understand, you know, like he was just meeting me, you know, like, and my daughter had to have she went into cardiac arrest because she had heart surgery and when she was a baby. And even in that moment saying, you know, if there's any other way, Father, take this cup. And when I remember praying that for the first time, I mean, I thought, how can I say that? I'm comparing this to the cross. There's just no way. But I absolutely am convinced how much God helped me in that moment, you know, because there wasn't. She needed to go through the surgery. She's thankfully well now and 21, but it's amazing how God just so meets us, you know, if we make that decision, because we can grieve alone. You know, I can grieve by myself over loss, and where's that going to get me? It's just going to get me into much more pain, but grieving with God, I think, and processing with God, He changes us.
And when we see that He's
us.
with us, we can. I mean, I had a stroke a few years ago, and Jesus, I felt like I really did. I saw Him like in a vision, not worried. Okay, you're not worried. I'm not worried. You know, if we can kind of sense how He feels about things, we can. But I a lot of times I want to be a big girl, and or if I'm really not too happy with the choices He's made for me, that's where it gets a little bit of tension, you know. Because or I thought it was supposed to end up like this, and it ended up like this. Or then I blame myself that it ended up like this. You know, you can kind of step back and kind of like, it becomes just messy. But yeah, no, but I was thinking when you talked about the divorce, the one thing the Lord showed me a while ago was that, and I hope it's, you know, helps friends that are going through, because I've never gone through it, but God Himself had to divorce Israel because of unfaithfulness. And so again, He understands people there, you know, and if you look through Scripture, I can see Him going through, you know, He understands pretty much he knows, you know, He understands the plight of our pain, and of Him coming to live with us. You know, Jesus as our example understands. I mean, it's
That's
just
right.
It's an amazing.
I think when we go through something, a loss or a crisis, I think so many times we feel shame. Like no one else knows how I feel. No one else experiences that. Speak to that in those people, because I know that there's so many people that are really struggling with shame. Like, I can't believe my husband left me, and I was doing so great. I thought I was a good wife, you know, or things like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I've learned a lot more about divorce from working with people in loss recovery that have been divorced, and my eyes have been opened.
Wow.
And I actually have a special place in my heart for them because it's a huge loss, right? It's a loss of a relationship of your spouse, and as a widow, I suffer some of the same loss, right? The loss of the relationship. So we experience some of the same pain and the loss, but at least I got support for the first few months, right? Or even 6 months. And what I'm finding from divorced people, what they're telling me, and since I haven't been through it, I don't know, but what I'm hearing from them is they don't get the support.
Wow.
They don't get the judgment. And what I'm also hearing, and again, this is just, I can only repeat, that they feel like they have a big L on their head, like they're losers.
Wow.
And that even whether, if they were the ones left, and that there's something wrong with them, and these are beautiful people. And then I'm finding out as we process that they don't feel like they've just failed at marriage, okay? They may feel like they failed at life, like as a person. And I'm thinking, really, like this is going so much deeper than I thought. Would that be
painful? It is so painful.
And
It's such a rejection.
So painful.
So if we don't process that and help you heal before you go into another relationship,
You bring that you bring it on.
But it's huge. And someone just saying, well, they were a jerk anyway, or what stupid. And you can get another person, and when are you going to start dating? As opposed to
I know someone.
I know.
My cousin.
Right? Because if they get you dating, you'll be better.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
that's what they want. But if
Yeah.
they could just say, this is so hard, and you are so beautiful, and your heart just must be crushed. You didn't deserve this.
Yeah, my friend needs you. She doesn't need me. Because I'm like, wait a second. Maybe, no, I'm kidding. It's hard because I do have a friend, a dear friend, lover, and I've been trying to listen, let her process this divorce she's going through. And it's so easy to want to go to those pat answers. And I mean, I find myself going all over, but I'm not a counselor. I know that. I know I'm an ear, and I know I'm a friend, and I want to point her to Jesus. And I have said some things I know that are wise. At least trust the Lord in all things. The Lord has got this. If the Lord can reconcile, but if He doesn't, it's okay. I'm just trying to give her, let her go, meander this without, But it's so easy to go, oh, there's a guy at church you find out, and that's not necessarily what she needs because.
But you want her to be happy.
Well, but you understand why we do this because we think, or at least that's kind of an easy thing to fall back on, and then she's happy because she's like, oh, he smiled at me, oh, good, But it's like, first of all, you should be divorced before
society wants to avoid pain.
That's exactly. We are so.
Well, we all want to avoid pain.
Yeah, I mean,
Whether
whether
we are
it's
uncomfortable.
I'm not heading into pain voluntarily.
yes, we just don't want to
No,
talk
but we wouldn't
about
take
it.
it if yes, you're right.
Do whatever you have to do to avoid pain, or I mean, look at how many different things are out there to get comfort when we're in trouble.
Absolutely.
I mean, the sky's the limit. That the world can offer you. Where Holy Spirit is the only one that can truly comfort. I mean, that's who He is. He's our comforter.
That's right.
And we tend to do the exact opposite of what we ought to do when we're in pain.
Yeah.
We
Whether
definitely
it's
run away.
Drugs. Yeah, that's what I did.
Run away.
Coffee,
Yeah.
chocolate.
I mean, I went into
By
drugs
yourself,
as a
hide.
teenager. I mean, thinking that's going to comfort me, and it brought nothing but tremendous pain.
Right.
More pain than ever, but I totally agree. It's just there's so many different things out there.
We call them short-term energy relieving behaviors.
Yes.
The stirs, and we go like, how have you chosen to cope?
Yes.
We want people to recognize their patterns.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
that's
What they
so
do.
good.
The more we talk, the more grateful I'm just sitting here and thinking about the fact that there is someone else who has been through what I'm going through.
Amen.
There is someone,
You're not
and-
the only one.
right, but there is someone like Anne Marie who has decided what God sent me through. God, I want you to use me to be the agent,
Amen.
to
Amen.
be able to be there.
Amen.
And I think that's one of the key things
good.
that we're talking about. I know one of my main things, I'm not even going to bring up what it is, I might do when we're off the air. That's not what we're talking about today. But one of my main things that has caused me pain, I know that God has put that there for me to be the person that someone else going through this can start to see His hand And that's the place that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the main things that we can get out of this talk and this program is that our pain on this planet can definitely be turned over to the Lord, and He can use it.
That's right.
Because we are Him walking around.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So in the same way that those crowds went to Jesus, knowing that He could heal them, He could touch them, He could make a difference. That is what God intends for us.
Amen.
To do for each other.
Amen.
To be the person
That's right.
that the crowd comes to.
And as I totally understand that. That is powerful, and that's kind of the revelation the Lord's given me too. But then, see, I'm a little pessimistic though, because then I go to this dark place going, now what else is He going to give me so I can relate? You know, I mean, I know this sounds horrible, but I thought this.
That's right. God, don't trust me too much.
I'm not that good.
I'm not that good.
But
I'm good right where we're
You and
at.
I are handling this one, but
and it almost seems like He starts upping the ante with me too, and I'm like, okay, you know, and
He may be.
The enemy
I
wants
love
to
you.
steal, kill, and destroy.
well, and the enemy,
Jesus, right?
I'm feeling this
See?
bad thing. I mean, the stroke, and I mean, it's just like layers. I'm like, okay, we're almost like, and you almost have to laugh because it almost gets ridiculous then, because you know the enemy's throwing stuff. It's the enemy. I guess it's the enemy. We can blame the enemy for everything, but I do believe it was at some of these things, and you're like, boom, 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 and then I finally feel like I'm to the breaking point. You know what I mean? And it's like, are we trying to get to the breaking point? Because here we are, but that's not really. But you do, and then I get angry because I'm like, Lord, you got me through a lot of things, and I thought I was doing good, and the Lord, you were using it, and I was praising you in the midst of it all, and writing songs about it. It was like wonderful time. And now I'm like, I'm just.
And that's what's so beautiful. Is that I think that's what's so awesome is that God works this way and this way. You know, He does. He wants to work through us, and it's beautiful. And I thank you for being so honest, you know, about your feelings. But when we get those feelings out into the light, you know, that in a safe place, you know, whether it's Anne Marie and you meet with her later on or whatever, I think this is
awesome. Because I was praying.
It's awesome.
You know, I was, you know. HSBN, I love it, but you know, it's not always like, oh yay, I'm gonna go do HSBN taping because it's time, and it's, you know, especially when you're not really in the mood. But you know, when the Lord
we
ordains
can
it,
get things and just shove them deep inside of us,
right?
Deep,
Stuff
deep,
it.
and stuff it, and stuff it, and stuff it, and there are years of stuffing, and it's gonna come out one day, one way or another. It's gonna come out.
It's gonna ooze out.
It's gonna ooze out all over your family.
Be a volcano.
But it's really important. It's really important.
Sometimes you don't even realize it. I think sometimes, like I said, it's the layers. You know, you get these, and you don't even like it's like I'm sitting here stuck, and then I God bless them all. I have a lot of friends, and my husband, and my new pastor. Everyone's like, "Don't look back! Don't look back! Don't look back! Don't look back! Don't look back!"
Everybody's going.
And you know, it's scriptural. It is scriptural. And I was like, okay, this is a word from the Lord. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to look at this stoic. You know, but then I'm like, this week I look back. I'll be honest. I was like, I'm going to just look, see what's going on, you know, and then I'm like, then you feel failure. You feel like, I don't have the strength. And maybe I don't. And that's probably a good thing to realize. It's like, because you can try in your own strength to do it right. But that's the flesh trying to muster up strength. And it's sometimes, you're going to feel it, you know?
Marlo, we love
sorry.
you. We love you.
First of all, we don't say I'm sorry when we
Yeah.
express emotions. I keep saying, because we always, I'm sorry. Why are we sorry when we cry? Because we're just expressing our emotions. And what you call levels, I would compare, Marla, a little bit like if we were born, picture yourself born with a backpack, an empty backpack. And as we experience loss and changes and pains in our life, we're loading that backpack. And some things are just little pebbles. Other things are huge. I mean, like I talked to a woman today, she goes, it's a huge rock with spikes. You know? I mean, that was, but you know, we keep loading that backpack. And after a while, you know, we just get used to carrying it and all that. And it's heavy, but we don't realize what we're even carrying until we get it off. And that's when you realize, oh my, what I hear from people is, I'm lighter.
Amen.
My voice is different. Me, I looked different.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it was, I felt different. I mean, I was a different person when I got what I was holding on to, and it was so clear, and it had just freed me. But what we want to do is empty that, and your layer, you know, that was a really good word picture, because it's kind of along that. And as we build this up, it also has an impact on how we respond to the losses that we're going through now. You know, we're much more sensitive to them, or they might take us to a breaking point where someone will say, why are you breaking over this loss?
Yeah.
Right? But you've already had quite a few. So it would be very interesting if we talked.
Yeah.
To see.
Oh, God is good. I mean,
And
Where
so,
you're at.
right, and as our viewers are tuning in and watching and seeing what we're talking about, I'm sure, because life is what it is. I may not know a lot, but I know that we have all experienced some kind of loss.
Yes.
At least one.
At
At
least.
least one. And that there's loss
Yes.
in this world. There's pain. And as believers, like we've talked about earlier, we've learned
That's right.
how to,
I see a word-winning acting again.
That's right.
because it doesn't do me
That's
like that. You know, or we've just allowed, we can go to the other extreme and just allow the grief to kill us. That's that side. You know, this side, I'm not dealing with it. It's just, I'm not dealing with it. I'm fine. Or it has taken over. And there's a big, there are all kinds of places to be along that line. But like you said, pain is real, but so is hope.
It is hope.
That's good. That's
So
good.
is
Always hope.
And so is healing.
And so is healing.
Yeah.
And so is healing.
That
But
is real.
it's hard to escape the pain. And I may be smiling now, but I wasn't for a long time. And that's normal.
But pain
And that's
is
okay.
escapable.
Yes. Eventually, yes, it is.
And I mean, in losing my parents, for example, that was a very different loss than, I'm remarried. I've been through a divorce, and my husband, one of his children, he had grown children, and he lost one of his children.
Wow.
And I watched him, right, go through all of that. And it was a much different thing. I didn't ever try to tell him, I know how you feel, because I've never lost a child. I've lost, but to lose my parents, who were both sweetly saved, older,
Hard.
you
It's
know,
still hard.
who had taught me that God was real. And so when my parents died, it was like, I cried, but not that much, because I knew this is the next step. You know, older people, you get old and you die if the Lord didn't come back, and the Lord hadn't come back. So they moved away. They moved too far for me to get to right now. I don't want to go right now. Just saying.
Nope.
You know, but when I go, I'm moving into their neighborhood.
Right.
So, got it.
That's right.
So it was not oh, my mama. No, that is what they always taught me anyway, was going to happen. So it was a different type of loss than my husband losing his daughter, that this was a child.
I think because in our mind,
So different. So different.
because I think the older, as you get older, I know even my father-in-law, his health isn't very good. It's like at some point you're like, this is the next stage. But when it's the child, it's the order has been not, that is not how it should be. We know it's not, and so there's something to be said. But
So the type of
grief is
grief.
still grief. I still, when my mother-in-law passed away, she was one of my best friends. We were together all the time. She was one of my main supporters with my kids coming over all the time. I lost it. It was horrible. So I think you can still, depending on the relationships, you maybe how you process things too. My expectations. I was in denial that she was sick. I didn't want to believe it. I'm like, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. So
And then my son got married. What's up with that?
That would be
Grief. You
Yes,
know,
there is that.
he was my cuddly whatever. And what?
But it is,
And
you
that's
know,
a lot,
it is, and to process because the relationship should be changing.
And it did.
Yes.
Keep him. I don't
It's
want him
gonna
back.
stay.
Okay, believe it or not, we are under 2 minutes.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
This
I
went
just
quick.
glanced up.
We need a part 2.
Yeah, we do. And we can have you back.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Miss Anne-Marie, we loved having you here and
Oh,
having
thank
you
you.
speak
for
Thank
to
you.
us
Thank you for
about,
sharing your story.
about grief and that your heart is to help us as we face what is just going to happen.
It's going to be on there.
What was
She has
the
a
name of
website,
your
right?
book once
Yeah,
again?
The name of my book is When Their World Stops. It's on Amazon, or you can go on my website. All the information is there too.
And I'm sure that will be on our screen as
Good.
well. Anne-Marie
Yes.
Lockmeyer.
Yes.
Lockmeyer.
Grief and traumahealing.com. You can find
Wow.
me there.
Grief and
A
trauma.
real testimony of overcoming.
Yes.
God's helped her to overcome, and look at you. This is
Wow.
awesome.
No, look at God.
Like,
Wow.
oh,
That's it.
love you.
Don't look at me. Look at God.
You know what? I see him in you.
That's right. That's
We
good.
love
You wouldn't be here.
And
if
you
not.
are an overcomer. You too
Yes.
can be an overcomer with Christ our Lord. Please keep him near.
Yes.
He is keeping you near. I am Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott.
I am Pastor Vicki Lund.
I'm Marla Reed.
And I'm Anne-Marie Lockmeyer.
And please be with us again here on A View from the Upper Room next time.